BE. Beyond exquisite. Yeah, if you're a little bit confused at this point right here, I'm just going to wind back the clock a little bit, a couple of months to a kit I did, which is this one right here. This is another BE, and you might be like, that BE logo looks a little bit like another logo, of course, being RG by Bandai, and that's essentially what these kits right here are like. These are almost real grade style kits by SNAA. They're based off the Knights of the Round Table, that's why they have the name Round Table Knights. And back in the Thunder Insights Grace video, I was thinking that it would be awesome if SNAA made all 12 Knights of the Round Table, and by the time I actually dropped that video, one was announced and sold out at that point. So I missed the second one. That one right there. Missed it. But yeah, I do not plan on letting that happen twice. Or 3 times. Now I do have 2 of these today. The one I really want to take a look at is this one right here, the Beyond Exquisite Iron Sickle. Now yes, this is exactly what the box says, Iron Sickle, as in I don't want to go to work today, I'm pulling a sickie. But from what I'm seeing right here in its hand, that right there looks to me like a scythe or sickle. So I'm going to be calling it the Iron Sickle from here on out. Now there's some nice aspects to this kit right here. First off, there's the image of what it should look like out of the box, and this is really cool. Clad entirely in white armor, we've got some yellow detailing. As far as I can see, there's 2 shades of white being a light grey, very real grade-esque, and it almost has a Tallgeese sort of vibe with a little bit of Sinanju in it. Especially up on that head. I am digging this design. A nice little bit of a line art here on the top of the box that definitely goes hard as well, and overall the quality of the box is super nice. On the back of the box here we've got some more images of what it should look like built, and if what we've seen from the Insights Grace, it should look exactly like what we're seeing here. That right there is the inner frame we should be seeing inside of this, and that is what made me go for building this today. That just looks incredible. If I just reach on back here to the Achilles and flip that around, the inner frame on this looks quite similar to what we would have seen with the Thunder Insights Grace, which is a little bit on the plain side, and I felt like something a little bit more interesting today. Alright, so thus begins our adventure right here with the Iron Sickle, or should I say Iron Sickle? I've got to stop reading that there on the front. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to mention first off, how did the Thunder Insights Grace right here actually age up? And the answer is all right. As in, it's not fantastic, and it's, well, it hasn't aged fantastically, and it hasn't really aged badly either. So there is a couple of loose aspects that have kind of developed. The shoulders are kind of droppy, but that's to the front, so it doesn't really affect much. And I find the legs can fall off quite easily. They don't really kind of hold in as well as they could. All this stuff you could easily kind of deal with yourself. I find it's just a super smooth plastic that tends to just make this happen. But overall, very good. Again, I can't really comment much on how, like, well this would take paint or customization, but out of the box it's still doing extremely well. And for a first kit, they definitely beat Bandai's first real grade in a lot of different ways. Anyway, inside this one. So the first impressions on popping the box is, first off, there's quite a bit of plastic in here, so definitely more than a high grade, maybe something akin to a real grade. The plastic is looking sharp as hell, especially the whites are nice and glossy, great detail on them. And on popping out the manual, this is very nicely produced. It's super clear, everything looks nice, and towards the back we do have a whole bunch of colored images showing what this kit will look like finished. Again, so far, so impressive. Alright, so first up, just popping a bag. Plastic is kind of teary, so kind of, yeah, maybe use a hobby knife. But yeah, so there we go, a little bit of a first look at the white plastic in here. Again, the molding is extremely nice. The plastic here is super glossy. The details molded into it is very crispy. There's a little bit of an example of the panel lines. Not sure exactly what plastic this is made out of. Doesn't actually say on here. I had a little bit of a Google Translate of the actual manual, and it doesn't say anything, but it does say, please use safe water-based paints in which to paint this if you are painting it. So it does mean I'm not sure what I'm going to panel line it with just yet, because I don't want to damage it, but look at that nice crispy mold. Oh, over here on the butt flap too, nice little lines, little circle thrustery looking bits. Overall, impressive, definitely. Hopping across the runners a little bit more, and it seems like we've got a lot of nice hand parts in here, including some very nice, unique looking hand parts. These ones seem to have an extended finger. We've got some fists or holding hands in here. I'm not sure, but it looks like he's kind of thrown up the devil horns there. Overall, a lot of nice options. A little bit of inner frame parts right here to take a peek at, and they definitely did not cut back on the detail. We've got panel lines on the inner frame, some incredibly nice molded detail, and overall looking very impressive. There is the light gray to go with the white, so we do have two shades in here, which will definitely break up that armor nicely. Some yellow parts add a little bit of splash of color to it, also giving it a little bit of an iron-blooded orphans kind of vibe in the arm, like we'll see later. And we do also have clear parts in this nice kind of bluish green or greenish blue. And what makes it even nicer is this little section right here is a stand, so it does have its own included stand. Now, I will mention, I've seen this kit going cheap, and I mean cheap. I'm not sure exactly how much I paid for it, but it was pricey enough, which was $33. And when it comes to something like a real grade or a Bandai kit, that really isn't that bad. But I've seen this going as far low as 1,800 yen, which is $11 or euro. So that just shows kind of how much I got overcharged there, but it does show how cheap this kit can be if you get it in the right spot. So I think it averages around $15 to $18, which is an absolute steal. Also included in here as well is a sheet of decals, predominantly in a gray. Again, they're very nice. Getting very close there, you can see there's some nice sharp detail, and these are in gray and a couple in white as well. So the main question, as usual, of course, is how well does it build up? So I've got one leg done so far. As you can see, it is the leg frame. So we do actually build this kit, and the manual leads you through it by building the entire frame first, then adding on the armor. And as you can see, it does look ridiculously impressive. Now the legs right here you can see are, well, step 4. I just tend to like to build my kits from the legs up, so I've got something there standing. But what you're actually building first, if you're following the manual, is the torso, then the crotch, and then the legs. And then afterwards, you speed on through it and build on the armor, and then the weapons and the stand. But yeah, as for the leg right here, you can see the detail on this is, as it says on the box, beyond exquisite. It's mainly in it's in a whole bunch of shades of gray. We've got what feels like a very kind of rubbery, kind of dark gray for a lot of the joint sections, so they're in there, they're down here as well, so that can probably take quite a bit of abuse. Then we've got this nice middle tone gray and cool gray for the vast majority of the frame, and then we do have some light gray aspects like this right here, and overall it gels together nicely. Some piping round back to give it that little bit of a almost Xeon-y flare, and overall this is so nice. Articulation wise, we do have a 2-point knee. I assume this part right here is going to move with this section when the armor is actually attached on, and the ankle is nicely designed, so we do have 1 point, 2 points, and these parts, the toe has its own bend, and these are on pegs so they can pivot side to side themselves. Overall, this is nice and impressive so far. Let's do a build of one. So first up at the hip joint at the upper leg, it's 2 parts that slap together, well 3 in total, but that's the kind of basic mechanism. So pretty much exactly what you'd see on most robot model kits. Good and stiff too. That leads us directly into the upper leg. So we've got this one little piece that pushes into it like so, and then it's 2 parts that attach together like that, and then you just throw that joint we previously built up into that. That then moves us down to the knee. It just simply attaches on like so. We've got an upper mechanism piece, a lower mechanism piece, and then the second half of that closes on, attaching all of that together. We then jump down to this section right here, which is going to be the lower leg. A bit of detail attaches into the upper knee. Yellow piping detailing pops in there just like so. Second bit of piping then attaches into the other side in the exact same way. And then we start building on the part we just built, the upper leg section. We do have a little bit of a sliding mechanism in there, so when the knee bends, it will move along that and then catch. And then again, that sandwiches together with this little part right here up top. So as you can see, the leg is starting to come together. Next up, we've got 2 kind of joints that kind of sandwich up in the same way. It's 3 little pieces per hinge attached together like so. One of these pieces attaches onto this section here, which will be the toe aspect. This bit then connects onto that. The heel is made out of 2 segments attached together like that, and then into the back of the foot to make the foot like that. The foot then just attaches via a ball joint into that, and there we go. There is the build of a leg. So as you can see, there's a lot of detail in these. The inner frame is quite impressive so far. Definitely more impressive than the basic inner frame we would have seen in the In-Size Grace. That is what it looked like right there, just in case you don't remember, because I kind of don't remember either. So next up in here, we've got the waist unit. Now this right here might look a little bit on the kind of plain side, but we do have moving hip sections in here. Again, the armor is none, that's another step later on, but yeah, moving hip sections that will drop forward. A little hard to kind of push without the legs in there. And we do have this right here, which is a multi-jointed little section for what's going to be the future ab crunch. As for the buildup of this, it's quite simple. You build up the little ab crunch section, which is basically two separate joints that build up ever so nicely and attach all together. Then you build up the two sides of the actual waist unit itself by attaching in the swinging hip joint sections from inside, then attaching the waist ab crunch connection part into it, and it all builds up like so. It's very, very simple. It doesn't say to do this in the instructions yet, but I can't help myself. I just want to kind of throw the legs onto it and see what we're working with so far. So there is one leg, and there is the other, and there it is starting to come together. It does feel good so far, but let's see how it progresses. Okay, so next up in here we've got the torso. So that right there is what it looks like. So we've got a whole lot of various different articulation aspects that are attached onto the ab crunch, the side to side motion at multiple points. The shoulders do move around quite a bit as well. So overall, interestingly designed. Again, no armor yet. Alright, so getting this actually thrown on, I will mention that some of the attachments on this are a little tough to actually push in. This is one of them right here. Throughout a lot of this, I've actually been using a bit of a needle nose pliers to actually attach some bits together. Again, usually I'd wrap the top of this in something like masking tape or something like that so it doesn't damage the plastic, but I don't have any lying around today. But yeah, these joints tend to click into place, but it is hard sometimes to actually get them all the way in due to one reason or another. Alright, got that one in right there. So basically all I had to do was kind of like twist while pushing in, but now it's nice and attached. So there is the ab crunch there, and we've got that little aspect as well in there. So overall, looking good so far, but we'll see what the armor does to actually restrict that movement. Okay, so next up we've got the arms. So as you can see, we've got the little bit for the shoulder armor to attach onto. The joint up here is your standard kind of joint. We've got rotation a little bit on the tight side at the upper bicep, a 2-point elbow, and there is no hand. Well, it says in the instructions not to pop a hand on yet, so I'm just going to do what the instruction says. So as for blasting this together, it's not that much different than what we would have seen down the hips. The bicep section on this is very similar to what we would have seen on the Thunder Insize. It's just one piece, which is handy. Piece for the shoulder armor to attach onto. Double jointed elbow joint. The forearm section is a big piece. There are more parts to attach onto this, which just attach into those little peg holes like that, and just like that. Simple. So continuing on with the build of the frame, just popping on the first shoulder. Gonna have to spin this one around, then pop it in there just like so. So this is definitely starting to come together. Nice inner frame, especially down here in the legs. So there we go, there is that full inner frame, and I have to say that is definitely impressive without a single doubt. Anyway, there's a couple of angles of what actually looks like finished, and there's a lot of detail on this, especially on the legs. The upper body and the arms definitely look like they're a little bit smaller. This kit right here is definitely all legs, and there isn't as much detail on the upper body and the arms. It's mainly just the various different parts we're mounting on the armor we're going to be mounting on, and all the points of articulation. But so far so good. Those legs are ridiculously detailed, and yeah, can't wait to see what we get when we get some more of it done. Now the accessory says head next. The head is completely, well, it doesn't have an inner frame, so I'm going to leave that to last. I always do. So let's armor up the legs. So this right here is what we get once the armor is slapped on, and this definitely brings it to the next level. This is incredible. I'm not sure how the light's going to really affect the kind of various different panel lines and whatnot we've going on here. There is two shades of white. That is a gray up here, a pure white down here, thruster round back, and overall this looks insanely good. A little bit of nice molded detail in the bottom. This section is gray versus the black. I'm not sure how much that will actually show up or not, but yeah. Let's armor one up and see how it goes. So first up at the upper leg, we've got a little piece that attaches on just like so in the center in light gray. The side pieces then just attach on like so, first off letting the gray through from that inner frame, and the exact same then around on the other side. This is super nice and smooth, feels great. Jumping now down to the lower leg, it is a little bit of a shame to be covering up the nice detail in the inner frame. But if you ever want to do anything like some damaged armor or anything like that, that can always show through, which is very, very nice. We do have some gray popping through right there, which is very, very cool. Now, we'll mention there is an order to you popping on this armor. This bit goes on first right here compared to what you're going to do next, because it is kind of hard to remove some of the armor, I will admit. Which, you know, is a good thing, because once you have it on, you don't want it popping off. But this right here, that little section does cover that up, so you do have to put that on second. I made that mistake the first time, and it was a bit difficult to get it back off again. It does say in the instructions the order to do it in, but sometimes, you know, it can be a little easy to miss. Splash of color in there. Bit of yellow. On to the side then, we've got some nice little parts. We've got this bit right here that pops on, as well as this larger section. This is what separates the left leg from the right leg. Just make sure all those pegs are lined up before attaching it on like so. And same goes for this little piece right here. Make sure everything's lined up and in where it needs to go. Nice part separation there. Round back then we have a thruster, pops on like so. A bit of rear armor here that pushes on. Now it doesn't go on as far as you think it would. It does leave a little bit of a gap here and here. I've been trying pushing harder and I don't think it actually goes on any more than that, but it is worth paying attention to. Next up, armoring up the foot. The black armor pops on like so. Upper foot section, then attaches on over that heel, then around back. Just get the angle just right. There we go. A little bit of gray popping through, and this all then just finishes off with a little bit of ankle armor. So that pops on that side, then over here on this side, and this then locks that all together. So very, very nice. So there we go, in absolutely super pure white, probably blown out the camera ever so slightly. There is one leg and there is the second again. It is just the thrusters on the side that separates them from each other, but overall nice color scheme and nice so far. So now moving up the body and along the build to the waist unit. Now we've got the waist unit, we would have built the inner frame section and we're just adding on to this. First off, we've got a set of joints on either side, which attach on the front and side skirtings in a really cool kind of way. We build up the rack for round back for holding onto the weaponry, and then move on to that massive yet super impressive butt flap. Double layered, grey underneath, white on top, locked into position with this little part round back, and then the rack for holding the weapon is also the joint for holding this on. We've got some yellow piping for adding into the butt flap like so. We add in the inner frame of the waist unit, and then we start to build up some armor for on the front again, very nicely and subtly part and color separated. Next up then, that all locks into position with a nice little grey piece. Now this is where it starts getting really cool, because we do have to build up another one of these little joints in here. Then we move on to the side and front skirtings. Now all of this is all attached together. Everything is double layered, so we've got pristine white armor on the outside, a mechanical grey layered section underneath, and the front skirtings attach to the side skirtings, which attach into the rear to make sure everything can always move out of the way of when you're posing this beast. They attach onto the side, pop the legs on like so, and so far this is coming together beautifully. Sliding up that build a little bit further and onto the torso. So the frame on this was already nice enough already. We've got a little yellow section for attaching right here around back. This is kind of free floating, so it can be a little bit awkward to attach on. And then you attach this into the back of the waist, and then the front waist sandwiches on. We sandwich on some more waist sections over that. The under section of what I assume is the cockpit hatch area. The venting then layers on in grey, followed by some armor over that. Again, subtly color separated in grey and white. We attach some sections into the shoulder like so. We've got some sandwiching grey into white sections for the vents on the sides of the body armor, which attach then onto the torso like so, and everything locks into position finally with some shoulder panels as well as a back panel. Incredible looking. Again, we've got stuff layering through from underneath, layered subtle parts and color separation, and it just looks absolutely entrancing. Next up then is the arms, and just as impressive as everything we've seen so far. So we've got the inner frame section, and we build up the forearm in 4 parts that layer onto this. Again, we've got some nice color separation, a splash of yellow. The upper arm is color separated into light gray and white. Again, simple, effective, beautiful. But it is when we move on to the shoulder on this where it becomes absolutely jaw-droppingly awesome. So we've got some parts that attach on to make the frame for this, which build up over and over and over again, colors separated beautifully. Light gray, pristine white, everything just builds up in an absolutely knightly, fantastic look. We've got a little panel for in underneath that has some color separation as well, so some piping in underneath that. And another additional layer then builds on top of this if it wasn't awesome enough already. Again, we've got verniers, little bits of nice detailing, and finally one big, massive plate that just brings it all together. That isn't it though, we've got some color separation in yellow onto this, and then some rear armor for around on the back. Finally then we do have a hand in here as well, or should I say we've got 12 in total, a choice of 6 per arm. Again, ridiculously impressive. So now that the robot itself has basically come together, we're moving on to the head. Now this doesn't have any kind of inner frame, but it does, well, actually scratch that, it does. It just doesn't build up inner frame first. So we've got an under section with an additional section, followed by a front mask and a tiny little clear piece that fits in perfectly. We build up the big crest on top of its head in 2 different colors. That then attaches into the sides of the inner frame of the head with the joint in there. Then you slap on the face like so. Both sides of the armor and the back of the armor just clips on again. Absolutely amazing looking, and once it's snapped on, this is a gorgeous kit. I thought the Thunder Insize was awesome. This is blowing it away. Last up on the actual robot itself, we've got the backpack. This builds up as a bunch of grey sections with a lot of nice little moving aspects in it. We've got 2 attachment points that pop onto the side to hold on the weapons, and then we've got a big vernier cover, and another little nice clear piece on top to finish it all off. It attaches on very nicely, and this isn't actually complete because there is some grey parts for this which are attached onto the weapons we're about to look at. So equipment time. But yeah, that right there, that's the completed robot, and it looks insanely nice. Moving now to the weapons and equipment, and first up we've got the tiny little sickle weapons. These build up with a main body in black and some pivoting blades. Now I do build up this little grey section out of 2 parts as well you attach into the back, but this is technically part of the backpack, and then when they're both done you just slap them onto the backpack just like this right here. These are just the tiny sickles because we do have the actual iron sickle that gives this the name Iron Sickle Kay. Again, big black handle, massive curved blade, then you attach on some more parts, green clear parts on the side that catch the light beautifully, and a big old spike that pops right onto the end. So the last piece of equipment in here that does give this a bit of a Night Tallgeese kind of feel is the shield. So grey back, light grey border for around it, white main body section followed by a nice big yellow crest right in the middle. Very nice. Lastly then in here we do have an included stand. This attaches together as 3 parts, simple but does the job perfectly. I thought the base looked a little bit, well, kind of small that it wouldn't hold this up, but it has no issue whatsoever. Did actually plug it into the wrong place for the poses that I did do at the end of this video right here, but it does actually attach into the rear of this mecha, not in from the bottom. But anyway, that is it for the build. I am blown away. This is it right here without anything additionally done. Straight build, and it is crazy. I'm going to panel line this. I'm not sure if I'll get around to actually putting the water slides onto it because the G-Quax is coming out soon. But overall, I am ridiculously impressed by this. I've heard this goes as low as $8 in some countries. And the amount of payoff you get is absolutely insane. Anyway, as usual, if there is anything you do want me to mention in the actual review about this particular kit right here, then drop it down there in the comments. But anyway, until then, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to come back for more mecha builds and reviews, and I'll see you next time. Once again, I can't finish this video right here without special thanks to the channel members and the patrons over on Patreon, including Simon Paskin, Abraxas, Caleb Engelhart, Joe, RG59061, ShadowWolf179, Van Fawn, and Scotty Thomas.